Basically, what you need is the sheets that I sent. Okay, no books today. Well, we may get to the Nemukei Yosef today in the Rif Nemukei, but we may not. Okay, so right now we're going to see how the Rishonim learn all of the Gemaras. Okay, there were basically a few Gemaras. There was the primary Gemara in Kedushin, which is really the only place that the Gemara explicitly uses the words Ani HaMehapech B'Charara, as far as I know. All of the other places are the Rishonim connecting the scenarios in the Gemara and the Din to Ani HaMehapech B'Charara, and then developing the contours of it. So we have the Gemaras in Kedushin, we had two Gemaras in Bava Basra, and we had the Gemara in Bava Metzia, and all of those Gemaras are now being developed by the Rishonim, and you're going to see some important and subtle differences which are going to play out in the Machlokas in Halacha when we get to Halacha. So let's start with the first set of sources we're going to do is the original Gemara Kedushin Nun Tes Amud Aleph, where the story of Rav Gidel and Rabbi Abba is mentioned, and that's the only place, as far as I'm aware, that it says explicitly in Shas the idea Ani HaMehapech B'Charara Ubo Achar V'Notla Nikra Rasha. I think that's the only place. Unless anybody knows another place, I'd love to stand corrected. Okay, so says the Tosfos Harosh. Remember, we had the Tosfos and arguing with Rashi. So if you remember, Rashi clearly said Ani HaMehapech B'Charara is true even by Hefker. Okay, that was Rashi explicitly. Says Tosfos Harosh. Ani HaMehapech B'Charara. Pirish Rashi. Oh, DH is on. DH, we're doing the pages, the sheets that I just sent out. And hopefully, if you learn them with an open mind, you're going to see that everything that you thought should be true might be true, and it might not be true. That we're going to be all over. We're going to have very different perspectives. Okay, Ani HaMehapech B'Charara. Pirish Rashi. D'mayri b'charara shel hefker. That Rashi made it explicit that we're talking here about a charara shel hefker, and somebody steps in and takes it. He's nikra rasha. Kashal Rabbeinu Tam mehadet tanan b'meseches pei. So again, Rabbeinu Tam is not necessarily arguing in svara yet. He's going to argue in svara, but first he's got to prove that l'chayra. I have many cases where there are cases of hefker. Somebody steps in, and he's not called a Rasha. It's not Meseches Peah. U'maisla b'perek kama debava metzia. Gabi Peah. V'nafalo aleha. Pires talmiso aleha. Ma'avirin osami men. So Ruvain the Ani falls on top of Peah. So he's clearly Mahapech in that Peah. Or he spreads his talus over the peah, or one of the other cases is he throws some of his peah on top of other peah. All of it obviously indicating he wants that peah, but he doesn't make a kinyan on it. So the din is ma'avirin oso mimena. We remove him, meaning the anim can come. He fell on the peah. 4 big strong anim come, pick him up, take him off the peah, and they take the peah and go home because he didn't make a kinyan in the peah. Says right, mikol makom v'chol right. So you see clearly, I skipped the line. I'm sorry. They picked him up, they moved him off, and they took the peah that he fell on, and they're not called Rishoim. He was clearly Mahapech, and it was clearly Hefker. The Nira Rabbeinu Tam de Behefker Mitzia lo Mikri Rasha. Why? Now you need a reason. So he's proving from that Gemara that he's not. Again, we'll see later in one of the later Rishonim, one of the other Rishonim, how we're going to answer this for Rashi. But it's clear that he's not called a Rasha. Why do I say in a Metzia that he is, and in Hefker, that he's not called a Rasha is because, right? That v'dafka b'mecher o schirus sheyochel limso liknos o lahasker b'mokam acher. You're trying to get a job, and I'm already trying to get the job, and you muscle in and take the job. We say, look, there's lots of jobs. Go find a different job. I'm already involved in getting this job. A mecher, I'm trying to buy this property. There's lots of other properties that you can buy, and therefore you're called a rasha if you muscle in when I'm trying to get something that's available to you in other places. Ki hachuvda de Rav Gidl, which is exactly what happened by Rav Gidl. Rav Gidl was trying to buy a property. Rabbi Abba came in. He bought the property. We say to Rabbi Abba, why did you take this property? You could have found lots of other properties. V'hainu nami ani HaMehapech b'charara shemamtzi atzmo etzel balabayit leovdo kidei sheyitin lo lefamim charara. So the Rabbeinu Tam here is turning this away from hefker because he's redefining the scenario. When it says ani HaMehapech b'charara, we're not talking about a charara of hefker. We're talking about a guy who is going to try to get a job with the balabayit, and he knows that if I get the job, there's going to be fringe benefits. I'm going to be able to take some extra cake. He wants to get a job in the bakery, and he knows if I get the job in the bakery, I'll be able to take bread home to my wife. Okay, so that's already not the question of hefker anymore, and therefore, you, Mr. Muscler, Shimon, go find a different bakery to get a job in. Why are you muscling in to get the job from me? There are other jobs available. Okay, but if it would be real hefker, we can't tell Shimon, go find something else hefker. You don't find hefker every day. We've seen this before. There are other Rishonim that brought it in, that the idea of bar metzra also is that we tell the buyer that you could find a property that's not on the meitzar of Reuven. But if I got it as a matana, you can't tell me go find a matana somewhere else, and therefore we don't apply the din of bar metzra in a matana, and we apply it in mecher. So again, we're proving the idea that there's such a thing as a mecher and such a thing as a matana, and a mecher we say go somewhere else, but in a matana you can't say that. Doug, you had a question? No, you're okay. Okay. So that is the Rabbeinu Tam's shita. And why is that true? Mishum de goy kimat yizuz liyode istalik le Yisrael lo that istalik le and Yisrael lo kani adamati shtara liyode. So that looks like a perfect case of the first guy is Mahapech b'charara. He's even more than Mahapech. He already bought the property. He paid money for it. And then Shimon stepped in because the Reuven hadn't yet made an official kinyan, and which says that Shimon gets to keep it. Upirush Rashbam. The Nehi de Zachi Hamachzik, he gets it. Shimon gets it because Reuven didn't make a kinyan yet. Mikol Makom Rasha Mikri Kimo Anyam Hachbe B'Charara. So the Rashbam says there explicitly that the guy who stepped in is a Rasha, even though it's something that may not be available anywhere else. Rabbeinu Tam Omer Da'afilu Rasha Lo Mikri B'Davar Shal Hefker Kidefrishis. This is really a piece of hefker because once the goy got the money, the property transforms into a property of hefker, and before Reuven makes a kinyan shtar chazaka in it, Shimon comes in and he acquires it. So he really acquired something of hefker. So the Rashbam says that he's still called a Rasha because the Rashbam Shita, like Rashi, is that we say ani mahapech b'charara even by hefker, okay? And the Rabbeinu Tam, and certainly the Rabbeinu Tam is not going to agree with that. The Rabbeinu Tam Omer dafilu Rasha lo mikri b'davar shel hefker kidefrishis. Rabbeinu Tam argues and holds he's not a Rasha, and that Shimon steps in. He's absolutely legitimate, and he's not even called a Rasha because it's hefker, and you can't tell Shimon, hey, why are you muscling in on Reuven's thing that he's trying to get while it's hefker? Go find it somewhere else. You can't find hefker property somewhere else. Okay, so is this clear? Again, the battle lines are here are very well drawn, whether you're going to call the guy a Rasha, because the Gemara doesn't say what the status of Reuven, of Shimon is, except that he owns it. But it's possible that he owns it, and he's called a Rasha, because Ani HaMehapech b'Charara is always the second guy owns it, but he's called a Rasha. The Ani HaMehapech b'Charara v'achar not laba. The second guy owns the Charara, the second guy owns the property, but he's called a Rasha. And therefore the Rashbam could learn that even though the Gemara doesn't mention it, he's called a Rasha. Rabbeinu Tam says he's not even a Rasha. We saw that inside basically in the Tosos there in Bava Basra. Okay, again, this should be familiar, but the Rosh here is highlighting the machlokas Rashi and the Rashbam apparently taking Rashi's side with Rabbeinu Tam. V'hadei amrinu beperek lo yachbar marchikim nitzudas hadag min hadag upirish Rashi kigon she'arav dag ach echad litzudo shadagayim acher maboim lifros mitzudoseim marchikin osam. Meaning, Ruvain is hunting a fish and he doesn't yet own it, and yet we don't allow other fishermen to come. Why? Why don't we let them come? Okay, and we make them go kimelo ritzas hadag afal gav dahavi davar shel hefker. So why are we pushing them away? According to Rabbeinu Tam, it's a davar shel hefker, and therefore the fact that Ruvain has his eyes on it and he's mahapech to get those fish, why are we pushing the other fishermen away? It's ani mahapech bicharara of hefker, and we should allow the other fishermen to come in because it's hefker. So says Rabbeinu Tam is going to answer, Yesh l'chalek mishum diyored li'umnuso shel chavero kidei amar hasa. So it's a different explanation. In other words, the reason we move him away is not because ani mahapech bicharara and we don't want the other fishermen to be rishayim, but rather because what he's doing is yored li'umnuso shel chavero, and therefore, as we said, Gabi bar mavua. So it's an external reason why we push away the other fishermen. But without that, according to Rabbeinu Tam, they would be absolutely within their rights to come and take it as long as Reuben hasn't yet acquired it. Okay, again, this is we've been through this, but here the Tosafos Rosh is setting it up very precisely. All of the questions are being answered on the spot. One more question that's unanswered. Ani menake berosh hazayit. What about an ani who is banging the olive trees in a place of hefker? Okay, so the olives, when they fall, are still hefker because the ani didn't yet make a kinyan in them, and yet we say amrinan b'reish anizakin mashet tachtav gezel mibnei darchei shalom. We legislate that no one's allowed to take those olives because of darchei shalom. What happened to ani HaMehapech b'charara? Why are we preventing other people from taking it? The ani didn't acquire it yet. Why is that any different than any other ani? Why is it that different than Mitzia? Why is that any different than the Mitzia, where we say we remove him? Okay, and he's not called. It's clear that he's not called a Rasha. If we say that it's Gezel and they darche shalom, that's much worse than being a Rasha. Shiny hasam shetarach bahem ani lahafilam laaretz. The Rabbeinu Tam is mixing two things together. We're going to see it maybe dissected in other Rishonim. He mixes two things. Hasam tarach ba'ani lapilam. The ani worked to get it. He did work, as opposed to the guy who was nofel on the mitzvah. He didn't do anything. He's walking down the street. He sees a mitzvah and he just falls down on it. He didn't invest any effort. Okay, but the Rabbeinu Tam here combines that with visam chadaite alayim. That the ani is relying on the fact that after my work, I'm relying on the fact that I can get it. All right. Whereas in the Mitzia, maybe he didn't do anything, and therefore there's no what we call smichas das, and therefore you're not called a Rasha when you take it away. Okay. So again, according to Rabbeinu Tam, if you can find it elsewhere, if it's available elsewhere, then you're a Rasha. All right. Otherwise, you're not a Rasha. And if you're Yored Amnusa Shel Chavero, even if it's not available elsewhere, if you're Yored Amnusa Shel Chavero, it's going to be prohibited. All right. Even if it's not available elsewhere. And Tarach Ani also, you're not allowed to take it, and you're not called, and you're actually worse than a Rosh. That's the Tosafos HaRosh, basically summarizing the Rabbeinu Tam position. Questions till here? Clear? Again, there should be no chidushim here, but it's quite crystal. But again, we're going to see contrasts in other Rishonim. Okay, so now the Meiri. So the Meiri starts off by talking about the earlier Gemara where Ruvain sent Shimon to buy a product. Ruvain sends Shimon to the car dealer with the money and says, buy the car for me. And Shimon gets to the car dealer and he really likes that car and he buys it for himself. So the Gemara says that Shimon owns the car, but he's a Ramai. Nahag minag Ramos. That's what it says in the Mishnah. That was the basis for the Rav Gidl story. So the Meiri just brings us into the sugya. Kishem sha'amru bekiddushin Shekol Kiyotze B'Zemina Gramosu, where the Mishnah talked about Ruvain sending Shimon to be Mekadesh Leah for Ruvain, and Shimon gets to Leah and says, "Hey, you know what? I want to marry you." And Shimon is Mekadesh Leah for himself. So she's Mekudeshes to Shimon, if she agrees, of course. But Shimon is called a Ramai. So Ruvain gives Shimon money to buy a piece of property for Ruvain, and Holach v'kana le'atzmo, and Shimon goes and buys it for himself. Not clear whose money he used or whether that matters. But clearly he made a kinyan explicitly for himself. He's a Ramai. So says the Meiri. Now, lo sov davar b'shenosan lo chaver amos liknos lo v'kana le'atzmo shu minag ramos. Clearly, when Reuven gives Shimon the money and Shimon uses and Shimon goes and buys it for himself, he's certainly a Ramai. Ela'af kol shera'a chavero mechazer be'ezo davar. Meaning, it's not just that Reuven gave Shimon money to buy the property, and he's now called a Ramai. Even if Shimon just saw Reuven trying, he's interested in the property. He's trying to get the property. He didn't make Shimon a shliach. Okay, so l'chayra, Shimon should be less responsible. He should be less of a Ramai because he has no responsibility to Reuven. When Reuven made him a shliach, I can call him a Ramai because you had responsibility to Reuven. But if he just saw Reuven trying to get it and he steps in, he doesn't owe Reuven anything. So, right? So, af kol shera chaveru mechazer be'ezer davar liknoso v'hu mekadmo b'seiter v'lokcha, and Shimon sneaks in when he saw Reuven trying to get it, and he sneaks in and he gets it first. Hareze ramaus. The Meiri extends that and says that's also a Ramai. V'chenim ra'u HaMehapech u'mechazer b'charar liskos ba min ha'hefker o lios balabayit notno lo v'hu maver lo et haderech u'mekadmo. He sees that Shimon's trying to get the Balabayit. He sees that Reuven's trying to get the Balabayit to give him something of Hefker. And he runs ahead. He swipes in and gets there first. Right? The Mikad Ramos. So you notice he hasn't yet used the word Russia, although Rama and Russia probably go together. Now he says something important that we haven't seen yet. Umidus chasidim v'talmidei chachamim l'chol she'ira lehem kach sheyachzira sheni l'risha. So is he chayiv to give it back? Shimon butted in. He got the thing that Reuven was trying to get. He's a Ramai. Is he chayiv? Can Reuven take him to court and get it back? Definitely not. Definitely not. And he's called a Ramai. But Masha Asa Asui. But it's a Midas Chasidus that he should give it back to Reuven. V'im hayazeh shemechazer achrei atchila ani harezeh she'eno rotze lachzira lo nikra Russia. So you see the Meiri is creating different tiers. Right? The Meiri is creating a tier of a Ramai. A Ramai. That's not as bad as being a Russian. So a Ramai, you're a Ramai, but you got it. And it's a Midas Chasidus to give it to the first guy. But if the first guy is an Ani and you took it, meaning he really, really needs it, then if you don't give it back to him, you're a Russian. So again, it's saying you have a chiv to give it back if you don't want to be a Russia. And if you give it back, you're a nice Russia. But if you don't give it back, you're a Russia. When is an Ani? Here we get into the question of, wait a minute, does it matter whether Shimon knew that Reuven's trying to get it or not? So the Meiri is saying here, even if Shimon didn't know that Reuven's trying to get it, it's appropriate, even though you did it innocently, it's appropriate that you give it back to him. Apparently, if we're going to follow the train of thought, it's probably true when he is an ani. Okay? That roi lo shiach zero lo, apparently that he's not really a Russia if he didn't know. That's what it sounds like from the Meiri, that I can't call him a Russia if he didn't know, okay, but it's still appropriate to give it back. We're going to see that this is exactly. I think David Lerner was very upset about it on the first day. Whether if he didn't know he is a Rasha, or if he didn't know, how could you call him a Rasha if he didn't know? We're going to see. So clearly, Rabbi Abba didn't know. The Kabbalah Rabbi Zera, Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha. V'yomer lo amtein shiyala etzleinu. I'm going quickly because we know this we already should know this by heart. Okay. Okay. So now we're in the state where Rabbi Abba was Rav Gidel was Mahapech B'Charara, and Rabbi Abba came V'Natla, but he didn't know. So now, Rabbi Abba, you should sell it back to him. Amar leizvina lo mezavnele de ar kamaisahi lo mistaya milsa de amar mara mocher nechasav arishonim eno roa simin bracha laolam iboy b'matan nishkale Rav Gidel lo nachislei diksiv sonam matanas yicher Rabbi Abba lo nachislei mishum dahav mahapech bar Rav Gidel lav magidel mahapech or Rav Gidel lav mar nachis lav marchis umikre ara rabbanan ritzono lomar. So we're going to see from other Rishonim. Wait a minute. So did Rabbi Abba have a chiyuv to give it back or not? Do you have a chiyuv to undo? Did Rabbi Abba? Let's start from the backwards. Did Rabbi Abba have a chiyuv to undo what he did? I need opinions here. Did Rabbi Abba have a chiyuv to undo what he did?
Yeah, we said last time that he'd be a Rasha if he does it.
It doesn't mean there's a chiyuv.
So then how in the world does he say, I don't want to sell it because it's my first karka? You're not selling it. You're undoing the mistaken acquisition.
Because it's chal. Because the deal was chal. It's just that you have to undo it.
But if I have a chiyuv, I can't say, I have the sensitivity of not selling my first karka gets me off the hook from something I'm chayiv to do.
Well, I mean, he's offering better though. He was offering to give it.
No, but at the end of the day, if Rav Gidel didn't take it, did he undo it or not?
But that's Rav Gidel's problem. That's Rav Gidel's problem. Rabbi Abba is willing. He says, "I'm not going to sell it because the Simon Raleigh."
No, but Rav Gidel is ready to pay money for it.
But I'm going to give it for free. And the fact that he doesn't...
Just a minute. Again, this is going to be a big machlokes rishonim. Okay, but it sounds to me from the Meiri, where he talks about midas chasidus when he uses the words afilu right in the middle, afilu zeyodea shechaver ani mechazer la ro'oi lo shiachziru lo. If he knew, the Meiri just said a minute ago that if he knew, he's chayev lahachzir lo. If he wants to be an ois rasha, go by the previous line.
But he is machzir. He's giving it for free.
No, he's not. At the end of the day, did Rav Gidel get it?
That's Rav Gidel's own sitkas that he doesn't know That's Rav Gidel's problem.
You are reflecting an opinion of Rishonim that we will see. That is not mashma. For me, it's not mashma like that from the Meiri. The fact that the Meiri said, "Ta'ani machzirach roi lo shiachzir lo," that it sounds like when Rabbi Abba was telling him, "Go sell it to him," it's roi. Because if it was a chiyuv, you can't get off of your chiyuv because of your sensitivities. Rav Gidel says, "I want to buy it, and I'm not taking it for you. I want to buy it." So if you have a chiyuv to sell it, you can't say, "I'll give it to you for free" if that doesn't do the job. I believe that that's the Meiri sheet. We'll see. It's going to be discussed more explicitly, but I'm pretty sure that's what the Meiri holds. And you should at least understand that there's a possibility that if you had a chiyuv, you can't say, I have a sensitivity of my first karka, and therefore I'm going to wiggle out of my chiyuv to not be a Russia. When all the dust settled, when all the dust settled, do you think that Rabbi Abba was a Russia or not? Do you think Rabbi Abba was a Russia or not?
No.
Why not?
The moment he
If there's
out,
two, I separate two distinct.
No. I don't want Svar. I want in the
I'm
Meiri.
I'm I'm, I'm giving, not giving sorry. I'm giving.
The Meiri says why he's not a Russian. Why
He's
is he not a Russian?
lo having
He, he didn't know, and he's not a Russian. Now
He
we
didn't
get to
know.
a second point. Good.
He didn't-
Now, if you would keep it, I'm not a Russian. Now comes a separate issue. Separate issue. Good. You're not a Russian. You didn't do it on purpose, but you have this property in
Do I
your
have a
possession.
chiyuv? You're David. You're contradicting. You're trying to.
I'm
you're
not.
locked into your assumption. Does he have a chiyuv to give it back?
Yes.
Yes. Just like if I
Meiri
picked up
says
your.
not like that. You're not reading the words. The Meiri says afilu lohaya ze yodea shechaver ani. Before we get to Rav Gidel, afilu lohaya yodea shechaver hani mechazer araya roi lo shiachziru.
Roy, yeah. It says
Roi lo
Right.
shiachziru. He said earlier. Okay. Go back 2 lines, right? That if let's go back a few lines, okay? That if it's mina hefker lios balabait no delovahu mavir lo et haderech umekomo hareza ramos umidas chasidus v'talmidei chachamim lekol she'ira lehem kach sheyachzira sheni larishon.
That's when he knows.
That's a regular person. V'im hayazeh shemechazer alei tchila ani. So that's a regular person. But what if the
When he
person
knows,
trying
but
to
he's
get
doing it knowingly.
David,
But he's
David,
doing it knowingly. I just want to
please
get the case right. That's all.
Please listen and follow the words. There are 2
Mhm.
steps in the Meiri. One is that the person trying to buy it is not an ani. He's not an ani. He's a regular
Wait.
guy.
I guess I asked the Rav in that movie what the Rav now read. Was that done knowingly or unknowingly?
Till now, it's talking knowingly.
It's
Everything
knowingly.
here is knowingly.
Fine. Russia,
So
Raman.
no, he's not. If it wasn't an ani, he's not a Russia. He's only minag ramos. And
There's a
minhag
Raman.
ramos-
But he did something knowingly. Okay.
But if he did it with a non-ani, he's only a ramai with no chiyuv to give it back, and all it is midas chasidus, talmidei chachamim l'chol ma she'ir alem kach she'achziru sheni larishon. That's the first step. So if
Right.
it's not an ani, even knowingly, he has no
He's a
chiyuv.
Rama. It's not good stuff.
Again, could we please make a distinction between what you're chayiv to do and what you do out of midas chasidus?
Under
By definition, is what you're not chayiv to do.
again, I respectfully disagree.
I'm going to read then you're not reading the words. We'll read
I
it
am,
one
I
more
am.
time and then we'll go on. We're going to read it one more time and then we'll go on. Okay? So, in Ra'o Mahapech, I mean, already the second line of that paragraph. Ra'o Mahapech u'mechazer b'charo eliskos ba min ha'hefker. We're talking about a non-ani right now. The Meiri is going to say explicitly that we're not talking yet about an ani. O liot balabait nosna lo v'hu ma'avir lo derech v'chadmo hareze ramaus. Umidas chasidim v'talmidei chachamim l'chol she'ir alehem kach sheyachzira sheni larishon. So in a regular person, he's a ramai, and midas chasidus to make yourself ois a ramai. But ramai is not as bad as a Russia. And it's a midas.
Ramai, despite the fact that he's a Ramai, the tfisa takes place. That's all I heard.
For sure it takes place. And
Fantastic.
there's no chiyuv to give
And
it back.
now he has no fear to get it back, but he's a Ramai. Okay.
But that was the Mishnah. The Mishnah said when Reuven sent Shimon to marry Leah, and Shimon
Right.
married for himself, she's married to Shimon.
Correct.
That's a much
Correct.
lower level than Russia. It's a much
Fantastic.
lower level than Russia. Okay.
Fantastic.
But what happens if this whole story happened, but we're replacing Shimon, we're replacing Reuven, regular guy, with Reuven Ani? So now we
Right.
have Reuven Ani trying to get it. And Shimon butts in and gets it.
Knowingly.
I'm sorry. Hatchila Ani. Hareze she'eno rotze lahachzira lo. So now Reuven again stepped in with an ani, and right now we're talking knowingly, and he doesn't want to give it back. Nikra Russia, meaning he's only called a Russia if he refuses to give it back. He went and he took it. We call Shimon in and we say, "Listen, Shimon, you got to give it back to Reuven." And if you don't give it back to Reuben, you're going to be a Rasha. So if he wants to avoid being a Rasha, he has a chiyuv to give it back. But you can't force him in Beis Din to give it back. It's not judiciable. We're going to see this in other Rishonim too. Because if he wants to stay a Rasha, there's nothing you can do about it. All you're telling him is you want to be an Ois Rasha. He was an Ani. You did it knowingly. You got to give it back. Are we agreed that so far that's what the Meiri has said?
But the giving back is only in order to get rid of your name, Russia, not because of a chiyuv per se. It's not judicial.
Can I force in court? Can I force Shimon in court to give it back?
No.
But if he wants to be Ois Rasha, he has to give it back.
He has that choice.
Good. Now the Meiri has another.
But we never really defined clearly why the fact he's an Ani or not an Ani makes a difference in the title that he gets, Ramai or Rosh.
Of course, because if you took it from somebody who doesn't need it, he doesn't. That's clear according to the according to the.
To me, it's important to that be on the table. That's all.
David,
I agree.
We've got to learn that we don't argue on the Meiri. We try to understand the Meiri.
I'm not arguing. I'm just putting it on the table. What he's saying.
I can't talk when you're talking.
Okay, sorry.
I can't explain when you're talking. The Meiri is making a difference whether the guy trying to acquire is an Ani or an Usher. Is the Meiri making such a difference?
Yes.
And his basis is what it says in the Gemara. It says, Ani HaMehapech b'charara, u'bo'achar v'natla, nikra Rasha, and therefore to avoid being a Rasha, says the Meiri, he has to give it back. So this is talking about, so we have now we have a non-Ani, where he has no chiyuv to give it back, because the guy's not an Ani, but it's Midas Chasidus, and if he doesn't, he's not a Rasha, he's only a Ramai. Then there's an Ani where if he doesn't give it back, he's a Rasha, so you can't force him in court to give it back. But if he wants to be not called a Rasha, he has to give it back. That's an Ani, and all of this is knowingly. And then the Meiri comes in with a third case. Where you would see that should be a lower level of requirement. The Meiri clearly makes that lowers the bar, and only says ra'ui. But if he doesn't, apparently, according to the Meiri, he's not called a Rasha. And he brings the case of Rav Gidl, who didn't give it back, and he wasn't called a Rasha. There were good reasons why he didn't give it back. He didn't give it back for good reasons. But at the end of the day, the Meiri is assuming that Rabbi Abba was not going to allow himself to be called a Rasha, and yet he didn't give it back. So therefore, the reason he didn't give it back, the reason why he wasn't chayv to give it back to avoid Rasha, it was because he's lo yadea. Again, you want to argue on the Meiri, you can argue, and we will see other Rishonim who don't agree with the Meiri. But we have to know the Meiri's opinion is very clear. 3 steps. If the person is an usher, and you go and you muscle in, you are a Ramai. And it's Midas Chasidus to be a nice Ramai. If the person was an Ani and you muscled in, you are a Rasha, unless you give it back. You want to avoid being a Rasha, you have to give it back. But if you did it without unknowingly, so then you're not a Rasha. However, it's Ra'i that you should give it back. That's the Meiri. Let's leave it at that. We got to know what the Meiri. Again, the important thing here is to walk away knowing what each of the Rishonim hold, not to argue and say it could be different. The Meiri is very clear what he holds. 3 levels. Okay, we're ready to move to the Rashba. Are there any questions? Again, as opposed to arguing on the Meiri. Okay, David, you may not agree with the Meiri, but the Meiri says what he says. We'll see how the Rishonim that agree with you.
He's not a Rasha. That's what he's saying from day one.
Okay, if he's not known,
if he did it not unknown, then he's not a Rasha. That's what he said from day one.
An open mind.
So far, I'm okay.
You better keep an open mind to the fact that he is a Rasha. Okay, because if you just take the words of the Gemara, Ani HaMehapech b'charara u'bo'achar v'natla nikra Rasha, the Gemara doesn't seem to make a distinction. So we have to be, in logic, say we should. And it's not clear what the story of Rabbi Gidl shows me. So let's keep an open mind, because there are other Rishonim. Let's see the Rashba. Ani HaMehapech b'charara la b'chara shel hefker kama. Again, the Rashba does not like Rashi. Right away goes right to Rabbeinu Tam. The Kivan de lo kol yom mashkach You can't find a charara of hefker all the time. In Karam v'zocha raises zoris v'niskar. Then he's an energetic guy, and we're going to see even sharper in a minute why he's absolutely entitled to it. Okay, right? We're gonna take him away, right? Because you can't tell the aniyim go find other. Meaning, even after, it's not that if I take him off. Remember, what does the kachila here mean? At the end of the day, I am taking something from an ani homas HaMehapech b'charara. The ani who fell on the peah, he's an ani, and he's mahapech b'charara. True or false? The ani who fell on the peah. Have I now got a perfect case of ani hamahapech b'charara?
Yes.
Yes.
So what's my default? Call the Russia. If I take it away, I should call the Russia. Yet what does it say? It doesn't say if I take him off, I'm not a Russia. It says mavirin likatchila, that I'm allowed. If I go ask a Rav, can I take him off? And he says, well, you do, but you're going to be a Russia if you do. No. You're allowed to take him off. So therefore, you see clearly that in a davar shel hefker, there's no such thing as being called a Russia because you got there first. Okay. So then when do we say it? So when do we say Mahapech Becharara is a Russia? The Mahapech Becharara Balabayis li Staker lo ka'amar. We're trying to get hired by the balabas. All right, we're the reverberations of the Rosh. Lefisha zot nefesh ra'a. The guy who did that and muscles in and gets the job to get the charara, he's a nefesh ra'a. Why? Shim lo yatzakan yimtzul acher listaker etzlo. Okay, you can't step in. Reuben's trying to get the job. You can find there's other jobs out there, and therefore you're a nefesh ra'a if you step in, try to get the job. V'hainu de b'mecher ika mishum ani hamehapech b'charara. That's the distinction between mecher and hefker. That in hefker you can't say, oh, you can find it somewhere else. I can't find hefker somewhere else. But in mecher, or in getting a job, and this is going to be where we'll go back to that Tosfos that talks about whether, all right, if am I allowed to go in some, and this is going to be halacha l'maisa. So, all right, I see there's somebody working at a company. And I want the job. Can I go in and try to convince the owner to hire me and get rid of the guy who's got the job? Am I allowed to go in and convince the owner to hire me and take the job?
Totally.
It's a free market. But the answer is very clear, and that's what Tosa said. Okay. That if a balabos has a melamed and he's happy with the melamed, you're not allowed to go in and try to convince him to hire you, because we say to you, go find a job somewhere else, unless if you know that the boss is not happy, but they're suffering away with it, then you're allowed to. But that's exactly what it says here. That again. Now let's see that inside. Nefesh Rashim lo yimtza kan yimtza lacher leacher listaker lo. To find a job, you can find a job somewhere else. Hainu de b'mecher ika mishum ani hamehapech b'charara lefi sheyimtza b'mokom acher liknos. Aval b'matana lo. Uchri aminu perak hamakabel matana lesem mishum dinei de bar metzra. Again, we bring in the bar metzra because we see that when we tell the guy who bought on the border, why did you buy here? You can buy somewhere else. That's a good taina. But if he got it for free, he got it as a matana, the bar metzra now can't say, hey, go, take money and go somewhere else. I got it as a matana. Okay. Again, everybody asks this question. Since it's hefker, it's hefker. If it's hefker, there's no ani hamehapech b'charara. Why am I pushing away the other fishermen? Avagav dahasam davar shel hefkeru. Hasam hainu taima. The dagim yavi sira b'kirisa hasam. The lashon of the Gemara. Kivan shepara zem mitzudaso. Kol shekarav lo maloritzas adag kinitzodin b'mitzudaso. Again, if you remember when we learned that sugya, we had a lot of different explanations of what Yaif Sayara meant. Here, the Rashba is learning pshat that once I put my nets there, okay, it's as if they're captured already. and therefore there's an implication here of Geneva. Inami, or that's one explanation, meaning the fact that my nets are there and there's fish right around the nets, it's as if I got them already. Or Mishum Yor Lam Nusu Shel Chaver is a second reason. Okay, one of two reasons why we push the fisherman away after the guy put his nets. We're going to see other Rishonim that learn even different shot. Next, Vani HaMehapech B'Rosh Hazayit, the Amrina Meperak Hanizokin, the Masha Tachtov Osur Afal Pishlo Notov V'Noson Biyad. That when he knocks off the olives, no one's allowed to take them, even though he didn't pick them up yet. Why isn't that Ani HaMehapech B'Charara of Hefker? It's Hefker, and therefore I should be allowed to do it. Okay, we have now 10 more minutes. The Ritva now is really going to give us a very deep understanding of different foci here. The Ritva. Okay, again, so far this is pretty much things we've seen before in one dimension or another. Now, I'm in the Ritva. Pirush Rashi b'chara shel hefker. The Hikshalav Rabbeinu Tam Hatanya Nafalea Piras Taliso Alea Mavinoso Mimena. That's the first kasha. Right? We see that we take it away from the Ani, who is Mahapich B'Charara of Hefker, and yet we take him away. So Rabbeinu Tam's answer is very simple. There's no din of Ani Mahapich B'Charara in Hefker. We didn't see this carefully enough, and we will. Ani, right? Yisrael Shenokach Sara Migoy. Remember that once the goy gets money, it's out of his rishus, and Shimon now zooms in and makes a kinyan in it. Shimon gets to keep it, and it doesn't mention there anything about Russia. All right, the goy michimatu zizlayade istalek v'Yisrael kanadamati aralididei v'have hefker. So Shimon is coming in and getting something that's hefker that Reuven was trying to get. But when Shimon took it, it was hefker. V'lo havi rasha. So you see that in hefker, there's no such thing as being a rasha. This is the most extreme mahapech b'charara. Right? Mahapech b'charara means I'm running after it. I fell on the metzia. Here, the guy paid money for it. Reuven paid money. You don't have a bigger mahapech b'charara trying to get that field than Reuven who paid money for it. And yet, since technically it's hefker, Shimon can come in and get it. Okay? Okay, and therefore you see that in hefker there's no such thing as nikra rasha. Okay. Aval hanochan hu delo amrina nikra rasha, ela kishezeh hasheni locha b'mo'osav. De amrina lekiven de b'mos atakone hanicha la'ani zeh shahipech ba. Again, so that's why he's giving the reason why really is only in a mecher, where Reuven wants to buy it with his money, and Shimon comes in and he takes money and buys it. We take Shimon, take your money and go somewhere else and leave Reuven to buy the thing that he wants. Once you're coming in with money, we can tell Shimon, go take your money and go somewhere else. But in Hefker, you can't tell Shimon, oh, go find something else Hefker. So that's the distinction between Hefker, where we do not say Nikra Rasha, and Mecher, where we do say Nikra Rasha. Okay, go on Hayuv de Rav Gidel. Dasinan Allah. Because what was Rav Gidel? Rav Gidel was called a Rasha because he bought it with money. Rav Gidel wanted to buy with money, and Rabbi Abba came in and bought with money. And therefore, the Ritva is understanding that the reason Rav Gidel is being called, that Rabbi Abba is being called a Rasha, that's what Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha is telling him. You're a Rasha. Why did you take the money, your money here? Go take your money, go buy somewhere else. Okay? And again, the teretz of I didn't know, etc., that's already a separate issue. Clearly, before he said I didn't know, the fact that he bought it instead of Rav Gidel clearly made him a Rasha. And that's only by a mecher. We have no evidence that by hefker we would say the same thing, and the evidence is the opposite. We see that by hefker we don't say nikra rasha, as evidenced by the peah and by the purchase from a goy. Aval kishenot la'asheni min hefker not la v'zocha bo ve'eno nikra rasha, and here's a very important justification for that. The chayiv kodmin l'chol adam. Why do I have to forego for you? Everybody is entitled to worry about their own interests. Ki emasa yimtzuhu acheres. Ukiyotze bashel hefker. So therefore, chayecha kotman l'chol adam. I'm allowed to say I can't find it anywhere else, and therefore it's either you or me. And even though it doesn't sound very romantic, the halacha says chayecha b'chayei chavercha chayecha kotman, that you are allowed to worry about your interest before you worry about somebody else's interest. V'hainu hahi depeya de amrinan aniyim boinu ma'avirin osam imena likatchila. The aniyim, those aniyim are allowed to worry about themselves, and they're not mechuyev to forego as long as the guy didn't make a kinyan. Remember, the first ani didn't make a kinyan, so now they can decide. I got to let him have it because he got there first, but he didn't make a kinyan. He's mahapech, or I can say, hey, I also want the payah. I'm also entitled to the payah, and therefore I'm not required to worry about you more than I worry about me. That's why we let the Yisrael Sheni keep it. V'chein amru b'perek lo yachpor gabi marchikin mitzudas hadag ben hadag kimelo ritzas hadag prishna taima. Only reason is mishum dagdagin yav siara ulachar shenitzodu b'reshuso shel zeh yotzin mishamu boin lemitzudoso shel zeh. Listen how he's learning pshat in that Gemara. We have again. Hopefully, you guys remember all the different pshatim about why the other fishermen are getting pushed away. He understands the scenario is that I put my net out, the fish came into my net, but I didn't close the net yet, but they're in my net, and then your net, because of the bait, they ate the bait from my net, and then they quickly swam out and went to your bait. So that makes you a ganav. That's why you're not allowed to do it, because you're going to attract the fish after they were already in my net. That's already a bigger chiddush. A bigger limitation. Okay, sharoim sham mizonos. Okay, that's why we make them go away. Halav hachi. But if it would only be because the first fisherman's trying to get it, ein lo lisrachek milotzu sham kiven de hefkeru. Otherwise, you can't push away the fisherman. It's hefker, and the fact that Reuven wants to get it is irrelevant if it's hefker. Val derech hazehu masha amru bebar mavua deuki rachayim. So do we push away the second rechayim or not? Shimu ben mavui acher me'akev al yado. If you remember all those Gemaras, that if the guy coming into the mavui is from a different mavui, we send him away. Shezekein mekachu mem karu. You, Mr. Mavui B, can go and find it somewhere else. So don't come in and muscle it on the first guy. And therefore, we don't let you take it away from the first guy who's trying to get customers. He's a Mahapech Beharara, meaning he's trying to get customers. Okay, yes, the customers are they hefker or not? But clearly, the second guy, we say to the second guy, you can go somewhere else. But if the guy is a member of the Mavui himself, now it becomes like hefker because the bar Mavui can say, I can't go to another Mavui because another Mavui, they're going to kick me out. So therefore, I view the customers here as I don't have any other options, and therefore I'm not called a Rasha if I muscle in on you. Since I can't find it anywhere else, I'm allowed to come in, and I'm not called a rush. I'm not called muscling in because I can't find it somewhere else. It's a little bit of a chiddush here, a new approach. The Hadamrin bePerakad Nizokin Ani Amach Rosh Hazois Mashetochtav Gezlom and Neshadachi Sholem Avagav Davi Hefker Shiny Osam to keep in the Torach Bahen the Chavton the Nafkan Kederach Shneyaram Osin Som Chadaiti Alayu Mashein came Benofel Alei Opiras Talis Alei Shalo Torach Ba V'lo Asa Kederach Misharotza Liskos. The guy who fell on it, he didn't do anything. He just fell. All right. So the guy who's knocking off the wood, he's working hard to get the hefker. So that entitles him to be insulated from you coming to take it away. But the guy just fell on it. He didn't do anything. So since it's hefker and you don't own it, we're not going to call the other aniyim mahapech b'charara ubach v'natu. And therefore, zushi tosa shal beinu tam v'hi nechona. Okay. So basically, we got all of the Rishonim so far, except the Rashbam and Bava Basra, lining up with Rabbeinu Tam and arguing on Rashi. But now there's a last little piece here. We'll see this today, and then we'll get into the Ramban on Bava Basra, which is also going to have a lot of chidushim next time. Miu. Mashakosavu zal ducholecha shenikra Rasha Bezdin mechayvin also lahachzer hadamim. So the Rabbeinu Tam held that when you are a Rasha, okay, and again, remember, it's only in Mecher. So what happened? Reuven's trying to buy a property. Shimon muscles in and buys it. So he's called a Rasha because we tell Shimon, go find it, you buy somewhere else. But he bought it, and he's Kohen. Now, does Beis Din step in? So said Rabbeinu Tam, yes. Beis Din forces him. Beis Din can force Shimon to undo being a Rasha. Okay? Right? I'm sorry. I got the wrong case. I'm sorry. We're in the Bava Basra case. We're in the Bava Basra case. Let's remind the case. Reuven gives money to the Goy. Okay? And now he didn't make a kinyan. So what's the status of that karka? Hefker. Shimon comes in and makes a kinyan. So now what have we got? We got Reuven who spent his money, gave it to the Goy, and Shimon has karka for free. He's not called a Rasha. But says Rabbeinu Tam, in that case, the Beis Din's going to make Shimon give the money that Reuven spent. He's going to have to pay Reuven the money that he spent. You guys remember that was in the Tosfos. So says the Ritva, I don't agree with that. Halasa, don't agree. I don't think that Shimon has to pay anything. We saw that in the Rabbeinu Tam. There were in the Tosfos. There were different shitos about whether Beis Din is going to force Shimon to give Reuven back his money or not. So the Ritva is going with the opinion no. The im kain echi amrinen b'shmaitin lo mar nachis laha v'lo mar nachis laha mishum de nechasim rishonim ninu harei min adin chayav lahachzira. How can you? See, he's using the Rabbi Gidel case to prove that when the guy is a Rasha, all right, he's a Mahapech b'charara with hefker. I'm sorry that he's Mahapech b'charara. Okay, that we don't make him give back the money. All right, he got it. We don't make him give back the money in Mecher. Right, why? Okay, we see that from Gidel was not forced to give back the money. Harei min adin chayav lachzira. Elavadai Rasha mikri aval eno chayav beklum larishon. So the Ritva is making it very clear that even when he is a Rasha, and again, apparently he's assuming that Rabbi Abba was a Rasha even though he didn't know. Otherwise, how are you bringing a raya from when he didn't know to when he knows? So it's clear that according to the Ritva, everything that we said earlier, he doesn't agree with the Meiri. He's saying the whole thing. And David, this is the source that argues on what you're saying. According to the Ritva, the guy is a Rasha even if he didn't know. Okay, but we don't make him give back the money. Where do we see he's not chayav? Because we let Rabbi Abba get away with not doing anything. Okay, so he doesn't have to. I'm sorry, I was right. The first case is a regular standard case of Mecher. It's not the case of the Goy. It's the regular standard case of Mecher. Reuven is trying to buy a field. Shimon comes in and buys the field. So in Mecher we say, what do we say? Nikra Rasha. Why are you going here? Go to a different field. Okay, and yet, okay, Kol Hecha de Nikra Rasha Beis Din mechayvin also lachzir hadamim. He's a Rasha, and in a regular financial case, the Beis Din will make Shimon give the money, i.e., sell it back to Reuven.
If he wasn't aware?
I'm sorry?
If he wasn't aware?
The Ritva doesn't make any distinction. The Ritva says that I'm proving from Rav Gidel case that we don't make him pay back the money. He's making the chain be'ahid Yisrael lakach sada min hagoy ubo Yisrael achar v'hislik bo zocha bo ein lo latei domim klal lilokech risha.
Where's the Ma'aser?
He did it intentionally. He knew exactly what he was doing, and yet he's not required to give money. He got it for free. Kivan shemina hefker zocha. V'kama afsir anafshi diyoid zuze legoy mekame delit neshtar. It's the fault of Reuven. He never should have given the money without getting the shtar. Again, he's proving from the case of Rav Gidel that we did not make Rav Gidel sell. He's using that as the paradigm that we allowed Rav Gidel. We allowed Rav Gidel to get away without getting it back. Rabbi Abba to get away without giving back to Rav Gidel. that that's a proof that Beis Din does not intervene. You want to argue? Of course.
No, I'm not arguing. I beg for the Rav to allow me to speak. I don't see where the Ma'aser Rishus is. Where is he claiming that there's a Ma'aser Rishus? To be called a Russia, you have to do a Ma'aser Rishus. Where's the Ma'aser Rishus?
Again, you see clearly that if the Ritva is bringing a raya from the case of Rav Gidl, he makes no difference between knowingly and unknowingly. Otherwise, how do you bring a raya from anything that happened with Rav Gidl?
Because he's talking about Rav Gittel before without the I don't know. Once you have the I don't know, there's no Ma'aser Rishus.
I'm sorry, again, you're not learning pshat because he's bringing the final conclusion. The final conclusion after Rabbi Nachas heard that he doesn't know. He's giving a raya. The fact that Rav Nachman didn't force anything on him means there's no difference. I can't do any more.
That's not true. That's about the Rishus.
Daniel, what do you want to say?
I'm trying to just.
David, I see. I'm not going to convince you.
No, I'm not trying to convince. I'm trying to talk sense, logic. That's all I'm trying to say.
But I'm learning pshat.
I'm talking pshat. I'm talking absolutely 100% pshat. I've been learning for 50 years, and I'm making that.
Okay, Daniel, let me hear what you have to say. Daniel, let me hear what you have to say.
I think I might have something that will satisfy you, David, which is like sometimes we say that like someone is tameh, and sometimes that is bad, and sometimes it's just like a state, right? It's a state of being. Sometimes to be, we want to avoid tumah, but sometimes, whatever, like we're all tameh here in this Zoom. So too, maybe this is an example where they understood that, yes, this is what we call Russia, but it doesn't necessarily have the same negative repercussions as other rishut, and so therefore there is no maaseh rishut that
Russia is partial to Adis. Russia is partial to Adis.
The fact again, I'm going to do it one more time. I'll try to show you in pshat.
I want to be able to logically say my position. I don't believe
only if you read the words. It's not a question of logic. Your logic is perfect.
It is.
The Meiri agrees with your logic.
And so
the Meiri agrees with your logic, but the Ritva doesn't, because the Ritva compares. I'm going to just read it one more time.
The Ritva does also, and I would like to be allowed to explain the
Only
Ritva.
If you show me the words. Only if you can explain to me. Let me show you the words, and you'll tell me how I'm mislearning pshat. Kol hecha shenikra Rasha. Whenever he is called a Rasha, Beis Din mechayven oso. That's Tosfos. But you have to pay. And the Ritva argues, halesa, it's not true. You can be called a Rasha, and you don't have to pay. You could pay. And if you pay, you're Ois Rasha. But it's not something that Beis Din mixes in on. The in Cain, meaning in Cain, if Beis Din would force the reversal of Rasha, so you see right away he's bringing a raya of Beis Din's intervention when he's Nikra Rasha, and according to you, he didn't know he's not Nikra Rasha, but he's saying Nikra Rasha, and he's bringing a raya from the case of Rav Gidl that the ultimate conclusion, after everybody knew everything and everybody knew that it was a mistake, the proof is lo mar nachis lo proves that Beis Din does not intervene, even though he's a Rasha. And if he wants to be Ois Rasha, of course he has to give it back. If he wants to be Ois Rasha, but Beis Din doesn't intervene. But the fact that he proved from that what I do when Beis Din doesn't do when he is a Rasha shows that he held that there he's a Rasha. That's the simple pshat. You want to argue in logic, the Meiri also doesn't agree with you. The Meiri agrees with you. But you've got to have an open mind to realize there's a machlokas rishonim here. Whether the ultimate conclusion of the case of Rav Gidl is that a guy who didn't know is also a Rasha. And I got news for you. Rav Moshe Feinstein, when we finally get to Tshuvas, is going to paskin that not knowing is also a Rasha. So keep an open mind. I beg you.
And that's Rasha without being an evil person.
Correct. You have a status of a Rasha. You did a Ma'aser, just like you did a Ma'aser Rama'ut, you could do a Ma'aser Rishut, but it's reversible. The fact that
without knowing, and without being a bad person at the moment you do it.
Well, no. Oh, yeah, no. But if you refuse, but if you refuse to reverse it, then you're a Rasha. Okay, Rabosai, we'll have to pick it up. Okay. We will pick it up. We'll see the Ramban in the Gemara and Bava Basra. Okay, Kol Tuv.